What's up everyone, I'm Timon from Plenty Plants and welcome in my walk-in closet. This is actually not the place where I normally shoot videos, but I was just making a few pictures of my ficus and then I thought, well, maybe it's also nice to share how I care for my ficuses. Because as you can see here in the back, I have a couple of them. I actually have another one downstairs, but this one is too big to bring up. But today's video is gonna be about how to care for one of my favorite genus, plant genus in the entire world, the Ficus genus. So today I'm going to be talking about 4 or actually 5 different types of ficuses. Well, they are not different types, but they are different species. I'm talking about the Ficus elastica, the Ficus shiveriana, or also called Shiveriana moonlight, the Ficus tinica, but I'm actually not sure if that's the right name. And then we have something called the Ficus belize. And last but not least, one of my favorite plants of all time, the Ficus lyrata, or also called the fiddle-leaf fig. These are the 5 ficuses I own, and I'm just going to show you them, and then I will also explain how I care for them. So all of my ficuses are growing in a semi-hydroponic setup, which means that I don't use soil, but I use something called lecuzapan or leca. And I actually also have one plant that is growing in ceramics. This one is growing in leca, then this one is growing in lecuzapan, that small one is growing in ceramics, and actually the one in the back is also growing in ceramics. So these are the substrates I use, and I noticed that I used to grow some of them in a normal organic substrate, just normal plain soil, and they wouldn't really grow for me. They will very easily start dropping their leaves, and I always thought, what am I doing wrong? But now I know that I might have underwatered them. They love water. They love to have a moist substrate at all times. So what I do is I just make sure that there's always water at the bottom of the saucer or at the bottom of the cache pot. So the plant will suck up the water by capillary action and make sure that the whole plant or the whole substrate is moist. If you think, what the fuck is he talking about? Definitely check out my other videos about growing plants in lecuzapan, because those tips or those rules also apply for growing plants in ceramics or in leca. Well, for most part. For me, when it comes to watering, I just make sure that the substrate stays moist at all times, except during winter when it's gloomy and dark outside. I just make sure that I do not water it too much, because then it will get root rot or it will start dropping the leaves. Another thing which is very important when growing ficuses is light. This is not a place where they normally stay at a south facing window, so they get like a lot of light, even some direct light. And I just noticed that when you are not giving them enough light, they will not die instantly, but they will just not really grow. And if you have plants, you have them because you also like to watch them grow. So if you want to have plants that are actually growing, give them light, and especially ficuses, they love light. What I give them is direct sunlight and some indirect sunlight. I think during summer, they receive about 3 to 4 hours direct light, and that's light that's coming from the afternoon sun, so that's really strong light. It's not like some morning sun or evening sun, but no, during the hottest days it gets a lot of direct light, and my plants, they just flourish in this environment. So if you want your ficuses to start growing bigger and better, give them enough moisture and enough direct sunlight, even some strong summer sunlight. When it comes to propagation, you can actually propagate your ficuses. I had a Ficus shiveriana, which I grow from a little stem cutting, and I'm so proud that it eventually evolved into a beautiful plant that is actually getting kind of big-ish. I'm very proud. But how you can do this, how you can propagate your ficuses, is just by cutting a part of the stem rooting that part in water or perlite. But I have to say that I actually think that rooting this cutting of this Ficus shiveriana is one of the hardest things that I have ever had to do in my entire life, because it was such a pain in the ass. I actually had 2 cuttings and one of them rotted away because it was just so hard to get roots out of it. Eventually I got it by using perlite with a little bit of water, but I wouldn't really recommend getting a cutting and trying to root it because it's just very hard. And I have heard a lot of stories of people who tried to root them and eventually ended up with a rotting plant. And sometimes these cuttings cost a lot of money, especially from the Ficus shiveriana. They were kind of expensive. They are still kind of expensive and still not really common. So I would just say, if you can buy one, but I wouldn't really recommend getting one by Propagations, except if someone is already selling a rooted cutting. But making them root is actually kind of hard. So what I really like about ficus is that they can actually grow into trees. As you can see, this one behind me, it's actually becoming quite big and I'm very proud of it. Also my ficus lirata is also pretty big and it's really like a small tree. How you can do that, I actually have a couple of videos on my YouTube channel about making them branch, but basically you just cut off the top, you make some incisions along the trunk and then there can sprout a new branch. If you really want to learn in depth how you can do that, definitely check out this video, because in that video I will demonstrate it and show it properly. So if you want to learn that, check that out. But for me, branching is amazing and I really like it, and sometimes it's kind of scary to do, but you end up with a beautiful, or even more beautiful, or beautifuler, a more beautiful plant. Last but not least, something about humidity. These plants grow in different regions in Europe actually. Well, let me just quickly check that before I say something that is not true. Ficus. So they are actually from South and Southeast Asia and Australia. But I also saw some of them in Europe. So they grow in different regions around the world, we can say. And I never really thought about giving them extra humidity because I saw them grow in, well, I saw them grow in different resorts in Europe, in Portugal. I saw them in Spain. I saw them in Morocco. I also saw them in Asia. So I think there is like a broad spectrum of humidity that they can grow in. I never really noticed anything about getting bad leaves because of the low humidity. So when it comes to humidity, you just give it some humidity, but don't do anything extra because it's definitely not necessary. Except when you're rooting the cutting, which I wouldn't recommend. I would say root it in a place with enough humidity so the substrate or the rooting material isn't drying out too quickly. But besides that, just give it some humidity. Just make sure it's not in a, I don't know, like a 0. You get the point. So that was it already for today about me and my beautiful collection of ficuses. If you have any questions, definitely check out. No, drop a like and a comment below. If you have any questions, drop them below. You can also always hit me up on Instagram because I also post a lot of things there. I post some funny videos and also some informative videos, and I'm always open to discuss plants, help you with your growing your plants, and also help you if you have any questions. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you again very soon.